full of day, diddly-lee-lie-do. Fiddle-a-da-lay-diddly-lee-lie-do. Whack full of day, diddly-lie-do. Shoo-la-la-no, shoo-la-la-la-no. Fiddle-a-da-lay-diddly-lie-do. Oh, the peanut, oh, the peanut. Whack full of day, diddly-lie-do. Shoo-la-la-no, shoo-la-la-la-no. Fiddle-a-da-lay-diddly-lie-do. Oh, the peanut, whack full of day, diddly-lie-do. Shoo-la-la-no, shoo-la-la-la-no. Fiddle-a-da-lay-diddly-lie-do. Oh, the peanut, whack full of day, diddly-lie-do. Shoo-la-la-no, shoo-la-la-la-no. Fiddle-a-da-lay-diddly-lie-do. Oh, the peanut.
gemein. Oh. Oh. No.
Alina würde in Jiu-Jitsu, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu und ist in der Schule in Costa Rica. Die erste Technik ist einfach nur mit dem Zeigefinger. Und zwar, wenn euch jemand angreift, also wenn euch jemand so angreift und ihr nicht rauskommt, dann geht ihr von der Mitte rein und zwar mit so viel Power, dass ihr hier richtig reindrückt in den Weak Spot. Also hier ist kein Knochen oder sonst irgendwas, sondern da müsst ihr richtig reindrücken. Dann geht der Angreifer zurück und dann kann man wegrennen. Und zwar nicht nur so ein bisschen, sondern richtig mit dem kompletten Körper und dann auch mit ein paar Schritten, dass er wirklich weggeht. Und dann zack, muss man wegrennen.
Sehr gute Technik.
Das auch richtig versteht. Und zwar, also wenn ein Angreifer kommt, der euch an der Schulter festhält, dann müsst ihr ihn erstens hier festhalten, dann gebt den Kopf nach unten, die Schulter nach oben, dass ihr ihn hier in so einer Klemme habt. Und dann einmal so einen Schwimmer, und zwar einen richtig großen, so. Und in dem Fall schaut ihr den Angreifer immer an, was er genau macht. Weil wenn er versucht, sich zu rühren oder nicht, ihr habt ihn die ganze Zeit in der Klemme. Und wenn ihr ihn auf dem Boden habt, dann rennt ihr. Und dann habt ihr eben so 1-2 Sekunden länger als der Angreifer. Und jetzt kommt noch die dritte Technik. Und zwar, wenn jemand von hinten kommt, wenn euch jemand von hinten angreift, was man machen kann. Echt krass, wie schnell ich ihn auf den Boden geworfen habe. Das ist so ein großer Mann, stark und alles, und ich habe zack auf den Boden. Auf jeden Fall ist so, wenn jemand von hinten kommt, ich zeige es euch an ihm am besten, wenn jemand von hinten kommt, dann macht ihr auf jeden Fall euer Genick, euer Kinn nach unten, schnell nach unten, weil es gibt so eine Technik, wenn jemand von hinten kommt und er hier so die Luftröhre abschnürt, dann könnt ihr ganz schnell ohnmächtig werden und das wollt ihr nicht. Und deswegen macht ihr schnell euer Kopf hier rein und dann geht die Technik los. Und zwar, wenn jemand von hinten kommt, dann ist wichtig, nickt es? Okay, also habt ihr es gesehen. Und jetzt, wenn ihr jemanden zu Boden werfen wollt, dann zeige ich es euch mal hier. Okay, dann fasst ihr hier und schaut ihr zuerst nach rechts, damit ihr eure Luftröhre nicht abschnürt. Und dann, wenn ihr guckt, ihr nach links, zack, und geht eben mit der Bewegung. Und dann, noch ganz, ganz wichtig, dass ihr wirklich nach unten geht, damit er runterfällt. Und zwar so.
Ist okay?
Also wichtig nach unten. Weil wenn ihr einfach nur so macht, dann läuft er einfach nur mit. Aber wir wollten ihn auf den Boden bringen. Also es waren 3 richtig geile Techniken, finde ich. Also wenn ihr mal in Costa Rica seid, er gibt auch Kurse, Selbstverteidigungskurse. Ich finde, sowas lohnt sich einfach nur, weil es gibt nichts Wichtigeres, als sich sicher zu fühlen. Lasst uns gerne einen Daumen nach oben da und vor allem verbreitet das Video, weil ich finde, es ist ganz, ganz wichtig, dass Frauen wissen, wie sie sich verteidigen und auch Männer auf Reisen. Ja, also vielen Dank fürs Anschauen und bis zum nächsten Video.
Romans always fought to subjugate the numerous tribes that inhabited Europe, but there was also a people so cruel and savage in battle that they were considered barbarians even by the Celts, the Germanics. As with the Celts, the Germanics were not exactly a unified people. They were divided into many different tribes, sharing the same language, religious beliefs, and culture in general. They inhabited Germania, a large region dominated by the Romans, which nowadays comprises Germany, Austria, the Netherlands, Belgium, and part of France. Germania is a land of hills occupied predominantly by dense forests and some swamps. With tall trees close together, they create an almost constant blanket of shadows and mist on the ground. Their natural borders are the Rhine River, which separated Germania from Gaul, and the steppes, which separated Germania from Scythia, the land of the fearsome nomadic horsemen. In this dark and hostile environment, one could find the Germanic peoples. The Proto-Germanic culture originated around 1800 BC. The tribes that gave origin to this culture came from Scandinavia, after having migrated to the south due to climate changes. These were the main Germanic tribes: the Suevi, Frisians, Cimbri, Teutons, and Marcomanni. The tribes were made up of different clans with warrior traditions. In fact, the warrior caste ran the Germanic society, with the leaders of each clan putting together a warrior assembly to decide on matters of war or peace, and to pass judgment on crimes and punishments. In the society, those ranked first were the members of the nobility, second, the freemen, who could bear arms and participate in the assembly of warriors, and third, the servants, such as farmers, fishermen, and blacksmiths. Lastly were the slaves. Women were highly respected and had their roles in society, such as clothing, pottery, and tending the crops. Men acknowledged women's ability to predict events and did not hesitate to ask their advice. Marriage was something taken very seriously. Both men and women married only once in their lives. During the historical period known as the Viking Age, many men risked their lives fighting on shield walls. Some fought for reputation or wealth, others fought to defend their homes and families. Such conflicts gave rise to the many stories that cherish the bravery and military achievements of kings and warriors. But war is not exclusively conducted by men, nor was sheer strength was the only requirement to win battles. In some ancient peoples, like the Germanic, it was not unusual to see women in battles, and some had the reputation of being braver and more skillful warriors than many men. With the arrival of Christianity in Europe and the development of more civilized societies, for the people living in the distant lands of Scandinavia, life was still the same as many generations ago. Women still had some autonomy and rights in society. Norse women retained the right to choose their husbands, except in cases of political marriages, which could be arranged for greater benefit to the kingdom. Women also had the right to own land in their name and slaves to work on their farms. In Norse culture, it was common and well accepted that women learned to fight. After all, they needed to defend themselves and their homes, especially while men were fishing on the high seas or participating in invasions in distant land. These brave women gave up their dresses and jewels and took up arms, becoming professional warriors who came to be called skaldmol, the shield maidens. Proving their name, most female warriors fought with shields, swords, and small axes. The use of spears was also common, as the length of this weapon allowed the warrior to attack her enemies while remaining at a safe distance. There is historical evidence about the participation of women in Viking invasions, but many legends and poems talk about warriors who fought side by side with men on shield walls. One of the most renowned shield maidens was Lagertha, whose story was written by the historian Saxo Grammaticus. When the famous Ragnar Lodbrok arrived with his group of warriors to fight the tyrant king, Lagertha and her companion managed to escape from their captivity and went to Ragnar's camp. Ragnar was impressed by Lagertha's ferocity and will, and handed weapons to the women so they could partake in the battle. With the support of the female warriors, the sordid king was defeated, and Lagertha became Ragnar Lodbrok's wife. Another famous shield maiden in the Norse sagas was Brunhild, who had an important role in the Nibelungenlied. Brunhild would marry the legendary hero Siegfried, with whom she had a daughter named Islak. Most of the women who accompanied the Vikings in their adventures were not warriors. But with the breakthroughs in archaeology, evidence brought to light the existence of the famous shield maidens. A tomb found in 1880 had the skeleton of a young woman around the age of 20. Near the skeleton were parts of some weapons, such as axes, spears, and a sword, revealing that this was the resting place of a warrior. Today, women continue to prove to the world that they are far from fragile, keeping alive the courage and pride of the ancient Norse warriors.
In the Norse myths, they were called shield maidens or skjaldmeyjar. I have no idea if I'm pronouncing that correctly. But were these women real? Unlike the Amazons, their Greece counterparts, shield maidens were not an entire culture of women, but instead singular women who trained as fighters. The reason why they may have picked up weapons are numerous, from self-defense to just plain old, I like to beat people's skulls in. But whatever their motivations, there are quite a few famous fighters amongst them, like Brynhildr, Hervor, Thornbjorg and Veiborg. Sound like an awesome Norseman. All of these women fought like men, taking on the world with a sword or a bow for either love, revenge, or just plain survival. It has to be noted though, there is a very interesting trend with these characters. All of these women and others like them end up returning to their traditional roles as mother or wife. This suggests they were far more admired for their ability than damned for their audacity to fight like men. Women who have been buried with weapons are not as uncommon as one would think. Back into history, we can see numerous women who could be considered warriors and who did exist and were recorded as fact. Logic dictates it is a strong possibility, especially seeing as they are mentioned quite prolifically in the myths and legends. And as we know, a lot of old stories often hold a grain of truth. So yes, shield maidens do have a larger possibility of existing than they do not.
Froðverðu